Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly talk about the workshops that we've already had. Some of you have been at those workshops, and I'm just going to go through these quickly. So we had the kickoff meeting first, which was in Berlin at the beginning of October of last year. We had approximately 30 participants. If people who were there want to contest that, that's fine. But I think we had about 30. The languages that I could remember just off the top of my head that were there were Latin, Greek, Egyptian, cuneiform, Chinese, and Arabic. The primary goals, Greg has talked a little bit about this already. Present the tools that disciplines have developed, present the needs of the disciplines for digital solutions, and consider how existing tools could be tailored to meet these needs. So what do you have that I need, and how can I change it to make it what I want? And then to make connections between people representing different disciplines. Because it's not necessarily always about tool development, but sometimes simply about community. The results were that it was very successful in defining the problems that the different disciplines face. It forged some connections that could very well lead to future collaboration, on our part especially. And it did much to set the agenda for the later workshops. The next one was billed as an Assyriology conference, but since there was Hittite, exactly. Hittite was in there. It could no longer be considered Assyriology, and so I call it cuneiform. Ancient Near East perhaps is the best. In Munich on a one-day, very intensive workshop in Munich, 16th of December. Around 25 people, I think that's the feeling I had. The primary goals here, again, presentation of existing tools. This was within a discipline. It's a discussion of how these tools can better communicate with each other because they're basically all working with the same types of languages. How can we get the stuff that we build to talk to each other? It showed that even within Germany, many were unaware of the things that others were doing. So somebody who's working on something from the 16th century BC had no idea what somebody who was working on stuff from the 15th century BC was doing. And so bringing these people together was very important. And what it resulted in was essentially the formation of an Ancient Near Eastern group that's planning to meet at least once a year and are going to talk about these things and represent themselves. So here. Once a year, to exchange information on current activities and plans to be a representative for cuneiform studies to national funders. And then there was a named entities workshop. I was not at this, so if anybody was and they want to correct the things that I say, please feel free. It was here in Leipzig in the middle of January. I'm told there are approximately 30 people in attendance. The primary goals there were, again, identify the existing solutions for named entities, discuss the next steps that should be taken to improve named entity identification, and consider how existing tools could be used to help take these next steps. Primarily focused on, from what I could see, looking at the notes, it primarily focused on multilingual approaches. We're very good at talking about named entities in English, but once we try to connect English with, for instance, Arabic, things start to break down. What a person is called in Arabic and a person called in English is not very easy to automatically line up. Representing relationships, not only between people, this is this person's brother, they were friends, they wrote letters to each other, but also between places, especially when you're dealing with, the way I understood it, when you're dealing with a culture that didn't think in terms of north, south, east, and west. Building up tools and community for precise annotation of named entities. So at this point, automatic named entity recognition is not easy, especially if you're talking about something like Paris. Paris, France, Paris, Texas, Paris, Hilton. And so people actually need to get in there and say, this named entity represents this actual thing. This name represents this thing. Okay, oh gosh, that's it. All right, so that was quick. Good. And now we'll move directly on to the next part of what we're going to do, which is going to be talking about future workshops. So we have 4 workshops that are planned in the future. And then, as Greg said, the the closing, the final workshop, which will be held sometime in the summer. Those are about, the one that I'm going to be talking about will be infrastructure projects like Daria, Clara, and Europeana here in Europe, and what they already have to deal with historical languages, and possibly the way we can get them to move towards taking the things that they do have and making them useful for people who are not dealing with English or German or French. I'll be talking a little bit about that. Let me go through another one will be about annotation, linguistic annotation and other types of annotation of textual data. Another one will be about big data and historical languages. And then one will be about line translations. I'm going to talk, now that I've named them all, I'm going to talk a little bit about the infrastructure workshop. This will probably be in Göttingen, here in Germany, a little bit west of here, sometime in early to mid-May. We're trying to get people from Daria, Europeana, the German National Library, and Claren, basically the four of the big players here in Germany, to come together and then talk about what they have and talk about ways that we could possibly get them to look at we people who are working with dead languages, essentially. Good. That's, since we're running out of time, that's all I'm going to say about that. Who wants to go next? Greg, I think you're supposed to talk about the aligned translations. So you could just say a couple words. I don't think we need any slides or anything like that.
Well, I think Thomas, why don't you, let's go through.
Yeah. Do I have it? Yes, I do. Do I have it here?
And we're funneling around, the actual precise topics of these workshops can be finalized. So one of the things we may do is revise them, the framing of them in the next several days.
Just a second. Should show up there in just a second. Okay. So Thomas is going to talk about the big data.
Yeah, data analysis of big textual corpora, whatever that means. I have a couple of slides. I will be quick, but it's probably helping.
Yeah. Sorry about this. I should have done this beforehand.
So it will be in July, from July the 10th to July the 14th. We probably try to have a couple of workshops in that week. And
you might, if you refresh
this page.
Yeah. Oh, come on. It should be there. I moved it over there.
It's probably still copied.
It's not big.
It's a Google Drive. It's a Google Doc.
You're not logged in here with your email?
No, I'm logged in with a different account. Hold on. Let me go to my drive, make sure that it's actually where I want it to be.
So it will be from July the 10th to July the 14th, but we probably will have a couple of more workshops at that. It's about analysis of big textual data. We will define whatever big means in that instance. We will look at very complex
design.
It's showing up in this folder in my drive. Well, why don't we just keep going on at this point?
Share it with me. Yeah, go into the folder again. Papers and presentations, upper left.
Well, I think we just have to move on.
Sorry.
Well, the slides will be available ultimately in our share.
Okay. Well, I will at least get my notes.
Hold on. You know what we could do? I could actually show them from my computer.
Yes, why don't you do that?
And then present.
And then I go to this thing here. Where should I?
Right. Let me share my screen. Need to present.
Oh, there we are. Here we are.
Okay.
So, I mean, you get the drift. So it's Florilegia data analysis of big textual corpora of historical text. That is a working title, but we try to build a bridge between philologists and computer scientists. So I think that's probably not a bad title. Could you advance the slide? So we're talking about complex computational philology, and every textual analysis of some sort is a combination of analysis and synthesis processes, and then we try to abstract that to some kind of research argument that we actually put out there in some fashion. So we actually talk about all the three steps: analysis, which will deal with the question tokenization. How big is big? What are my tokens? Is it words? Is it character engrams? Is it syllables? Is it quantities? Is it whatever feature you can think of and tokenize of a big corpus? How to analyze a tokenized corpus, or how to analyze multiple different tokenizations of the same corpus? Which method works for which tokenization? Hopefully we will talk all about word embedding, topic modeling, stylometrics, etc., the big guns. Yeah? We will then try to synthesize all of this in a meaningful way. So we deal with the question of how to combine the results of different analysis meaningfully. What citation systems are we going to use? Are we using citation system databases, whatever? How can we avoid circular research in complex textual analysis situations, which sounds easier than it actually is. So we will look at this as well, especially when we combine different analyses, because we can really bias our data if we're not careful in combining them. We try to abstract everything to great and decent results. Abstraction is often a method of reduction. So reduction of our data, reduction of our analyses, of our syntheses to a meaningful research communication. When it comes down to visualization, is how do we abstract dimensions? How do we reduce dimensionality? How do we actually create visualizations that are meaningful to our research, to our data, and convey our research method and question in a meaningful way? And how do we provide narrative to that as well? I mean, research needs narrative is probably the most take-home message I teach my students in the computer science department when I teach them as a philologist. And finally, to summarize that all a little bit, what we want to do is, can a computer determine whether Caesar is boring? Yeah? Caesar to the left, Petronius to the right, that is a topic distribution. You probably can't really see much.
I think your mouse is right over the, if you move your own mouse, there we go. Now let's see.
The yellow line here.
There we go.
Yeah, that's a topic about war and killing, and that's why we tell people in Latin class that if they don't know a verb, they should just translate it as attack or kill, and they're probably fine if you use it. That's all. If you have any questions, write me an email. It's thomas.könkes@uni-leipzig.de. You just have to believe me, but you can also Google me on the conference, on the departmental website, and we will have the slides up for more information as well. And without further ado, now to my colleague Giuseppe Celano. Thank you very much.
Are you connected to the?
I think we'll just have to live without it for now.
All right.
Computer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry, Giuseppe.
Don't worry about it.
So we. Okay. No,
We had it.
no, it's not.
Kein Signal.
Okay, now. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So, hi everyone. So we are gonna have also a workshop on linguistic annotation. As you may already be familiar, these are linguistic trees, and we would like to have them for as many historical languages as possible. Okay, so that means that we would like to provide linguistic layers, linguistic annotations, especially for morphology and syntax for any language that we can have involved in this project. So these are trees for Greek, and it might look a little bit scary at first, but they just show the logic, okay, how words are connected to each other, and they are parts of speech, okay. One of the challenge is to be able to, of course, why do we want to do that? Because usually this is these kinds of annotation are the basic ones on which we build many other kinds of annotation. Okay, so and we wanted to we rely on morphosyntax in order to query our text also semantically. Okay, if we wanted to distinguish a noun from a verb, for example, this is something pertaining to morphology, and we wanted to have this kind of information in our text. So this is really basic building blocks in terms of how we can enrich our text with annotation. Another challenge is, so, and I have also to add that this is a screenshot from universal dependencies. So one challenge is to annotate our language and then to convert them in a common annotation scheme, allowing us to compare languages, not only historical languages, but also modern languages. So this is really extremely interesting, okay, because we can also study languages diachronically, for example. So we can compare different stages of the same language, or we can compare different languages. So this is really very interesting. Another challenge is to associate our annotation with a reference system, and because this is, I think that you have already heard us talking about CTS URN, and the last frontier of our study is exactly to associate our morphosyntactic annotations with CTS URN. This is again just a portion of our Iliad, where you can see that we can actually analyze, so each word can be identified in a unique way. Okay, so what we wanted to do is associate these, to combine the studies that we are doing in this respect with the morphosyntactic ones. So we wanted to end up in the end with a file where, wait a second, where we actually have both the syntactic annotation, right? So we have the morphosyntactic annotation and the CTS URN. So as you can see here, we have lots of words, the morphosynthetic annotation, and then each word is associated with its CTS URN. Okay, so this is the first verse. Okay, the third line of the first book, identified by those two numbers, TLG 12, blah blah blah. So yeah, there is really a lot to do, and we would really like to extend what we have so far done for ancient Greek and Latin to other historical languages, or to actually annotate more text, also ancient Greek and Latin text. So everyone is really welcome to join this enterprise. Okay, and that's it.
Okay. And then just something quickly about the translation alignment.
Okay, and so we have another workshop. We call it translation alignment. Well, really, it's about new ways of supporting how we learn and read languages. A fundamental change, a point that I made in my own presentation is we can give you so many annotations for a text that you can start working with a text in almost any language almost immediately. So it's 30 years ago, if I handed you a text in Greek and you did not know Greek, you could do nothing, zero. As Shakespeare said, it's Greek to me. In Italian, I was told you say mi è turco, because lots of people study Greek. But there's always some language you don't know. And that has changed. So how do you design curricula for ancient languages? Obviously, if you want to read 100,000 words of the Iliad, you want to have it in your head. You don't want to look every word up. So that's different. If you want to read all of Goethe, you want to have it in your head. But how much do you put in your head for given what you need to do, and how do you do that? How do we build an environment to support people who know nothing of the language? How do we build an environment to help people extend their knowledge of the language? A problem I find interesting is the study of German before the 20th century. I can understand the news, and I can even make myself understood in a lecture in German. But if I'm given a copy of Goethe or a poem by Schiller, the vocabulary is different. The syntax is different in ways that a native speaker will not recognize. How would you get someone like me or my colleagues to actually work with a non-modern version of a language? The same for French, it's the same for Italian, it's the same for classical Arabic. You study modern standard Arabic, as I did at Tufts, and you can't understand the Elf Layla wa Layla, 1001 Nights. It's slightly different. How do we support a range of people? So how do we reconceptualize reading and learning historical languages in a digital age when historical languages can mean the essay by Friedrich Wolff on the invention of Autowissenschaft from 200 years ago, which none of my colleagues will read in German, none of my English-speaking colleagues will read. How do we change that? So that's another topic of a workshop, and parallel text alignment is part of that also, so will linguistic annotation. So these 4 workshops: infrastructures, what are the things that exist from Europeana, from Clarence, from Daria, from the German Digital Library, from other sources, perhaps in the United States or elsewhere. That's one topic. Another is, how do you work with vast bodies of data? It may not be a problem for you in some disciplines when you have small corpora, but one of the great unheralded transformative events of 2017 may well be the OCRD project that is likely going to try to take 400,000 German books printed in Germany in any language or in German in any country, from 1500 to 1800, and to provide usable OCR generated text for them. That's not 10 million books, that's 400,000. But if you do that, you create the Hubble telescope. You create a collection that will transform the way in which we think about intellectual history. Because you will have to use big data. You will have to use topic modeling. You will have to use automatic text detection and tracking. You will have to use named entity analysis. And you will have to work with data that has errors. And if you don't, you will be left behind. So this is huge. And so that one workshop will be on these big scalable methods. And if you have 10 million words, that's beyond what you can work with often. A third workshop is a problem of different kinds of linguistic annotation. We do some kinds, but We do morphology and syntax, but they're all sorts of things. How do you apply corpus linguistics to philology? Is really the question. And the fourth is what are the implications for reading? And these will take place, the infrastructure will be in May, the others will be in July. And we're either, if you want to come, let us know and we'll try and make it happen. Okay? And if you can't come, let us know what you think. We'll try and broadcast and share slides and so on. We really want to get people's points of view. And at this point, let's go on. Let's finish this up and go over to David.
Yeah.
David Birnbaum.